All right. Like I said in the first lecture, I guess, our introduction, that this class is going to be about writing. So again, welcome to Health Science 622, Research Methods and Program Evaluation, our first week. I really wanted to talk a little bit about the writing process, resources, writer's block, things that might help you during the semester. So there are a lot of resources available to you through NAU and others. So our University Writing Commons, so there's a website for that. The Purdue Online Writing Lab, they have things all the way from grammatical pieces to, larger how to write a research grant type of thing. Highly recommend checking them out. If you have a faculty mentor, they're a very good resource. I really encourage you to use each other. You'll really want to use each other past just those pure editing requirements, but also just to bounce ideas off and others. And of course, as always, I am a resource to you. I love helping with the writing process. I was never a very good writer until grad school, and now I feel like I'm doing a little bit better. So we're doing a very specific type of writing when we're in public health, and that's scientific writing. And scientific writing is really hard. I am constantly finding ways to improve my writing. And like I said, I wasn't a very good writer until graduate school. And there's so much that goes into it. With this comic, it's supposed to work very seamlessly. However, there are so many things that go into it, like insecurity, confusion, motivation, all of that. So keep that in mind. Most writers need strategies for motivation, specifically at 3 key time points. So getting started. So how do you get started? Staying productive throughout the process, and then finalizing that last part of the draft where you're so close and you just don't want to read it again. I know it seems like it's pretty much the entire time, which for some people it is, but it's good to know these things. So I think that's really why I tried to make this where we'll be writing in bursts. So assignments will help keep you on track, make writing your final product easier. Your intro and methods, everything will be written for the most part with feedback from me and your peer editor. So when we think about the first piece of getting motivated, the getting started, the only way to get started on writing is to start writing. There's a lot of strategies. Some you may be familiar with, some you may not be familiar with, some you've tried, maybe not tried, and that's making an outline and really start to fill in content as you go in that outline. Sometimes it's really important to write whatever part is ready to be put into words rather than writing from a first sentence to the conclusion. So kind of straight through, like you would almost read something. You don't want to write it like that. There's always good ways to try oral, visual, other ways to focus the story. And I highly recommend, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, is working with a writing group. I'll talk about this in a minute, but if you need help finding one, please let me know. Writing well is not easy. It's very hard. It requires a lot of brain power, a lot of focus, constant thinking. And so like Tom Verducci said, writing well is hard. It requires constant thinking. The gears, flywheels, and levers of the mind clink and clatter nonstop. Writing is flying an airplane without instruments, almost always through the dark storms of doubt. It's new every time. I wanted to share this because it's so important to really think about how tough it is, and you're not alone if you think it's hard to write. So like they said, writing well is hard, but writing at all is challenging, and you want to find something that works for you. So pause this video and think for just a second about when you're most productive. Is that time accounted for by meetings, by things that don't need that productivity piece? So you want to write early, you want to write late. Think about when you are the most productive. Is it the first thing in the morning, or after a workout, or late at night after your kids are to bed? I'm starting to learn that. So, think about that and try and protect that time. Not everyone likes to use outlines, but I really highly recommend not to skip the step of making an outline and using it as a guide. It's really helpful to kind of keep your ideas flowing appropriately. After that outline, you can do a couple of things. You can either vomit on the paper, so write whatever you're thinking, or think first and then write. Again, what is your style, and kind of try and figure it out. Scribble thoughts, ideas, keep track of them, organize them. There's an example: if you write something and I might say in a comment, too much information, or this looks like it may belong in a discussion section, don't delete that forever. So don't delete it and then save over that version. Save that version, put that paragraph in a thoughts document, in a different document, to keep it so you don't lose that forever. So something to really think about is staying motivated. This is actually one of the biggest parts about the writing process. Have a writing routine. I have a very strict writing routine, but it's always good to be prepared to try something new. If you write best early, protect that time religiously. Do not schedule meetings. Try and do your best. I know life happens, but do as much as you can. Schedule meetings during that time sparingly, and do not indicate that you're available at that time, like on doodle polls for meetings. Write every day. That is the simplest way to be motivated. It could be a full, if you do 100 words per day, just 100, a full 3,000 word manuscript could be done in 6 weeks. That's insane. If you write one paragraph, a full draft could be done in a month. To be able to write every day, though, it's really important to ask for help. Have people read drafts, ask for thoughts. Those are very important. And writing accountability groups. So I use this strategy this strategy really helps me. There's a time management system that encourages people to work with the time they have rather than against it. So you break your workday into 25-minute chunks, separated by 5-minute breaks. After about 4, so a little hour and a half, you can take a longer break. There are websites for this. One is Tomato Timer. You can Google it and they'll exist. But if I schedule writing time by myself, I'm tempted to skip it, work over it, schedule meetings. But these writing accountability groups are really important because you're actually accountable to somebody else. So again, I have a question for you. If you've already looked through the slides, you know the answer to this. But what is the most important body part for writing? Like, think about that for just a second. Your butt. Your brain might be an answer, your hand, your fingers. These are very important too. But you cannot write if you do not spend time with your butt in the chair and your hands on the keyboard. Yes, of course, we think about these things away from our computers or our paper or pencils, but you must be in the chair or at a standing desk or at a treadmill desk, whatever you're typing on, to make it happen. So you have to be at the computer. We are all computer fatigued, but it is really important. So I know I'm kind of skipping, but writing styles is similar, in that same piece, but don't get caught in the I need extended blocks of time to write trap. Most of us say, okay, I need all day to be able to write. You can write in an hour, half an hour, 15 minutes. Writing regularly, like I said, write every day, and you'll it will lead to more success than that kind of, okay, I'm only going to write for 4 hours on a Friday. You'll actually make bigger progress. And I know that's harder for assignments because, things happen, but try to work on these assignments day by day. And writing regularly avoids this inertia and prolonged initiation time. So a lot of the time we're like, oh, we dread it. And we're like, okay, I'm just gonna slowly get into it. It's not gonna do that. That kind of eliminates that. It's not easy, but it's important. This kind of falls in that same initiating that writer's block. So you've got coffee, favorite song is playing, 6 hours of free time, and then there's going to be inspiration, and that inspiration doesn't really always come, and that includes in scientific writing. So writer's block really occurs when you encounter sustained struggles with writing, and a lot of the time it has to do with fear of failure. I suffer and have suffered previously from imposter syndrome, and it makes it really hard to get that kind of motivation to write. But it can be overcome when this writer makes writing a priority. And remember, I want you to remember this. No paper is perfect. No draft is perfect. So keep that in mind. It's okay that it's not perfect. When it comes to writer's block, it's very common. It doesn't matter what you're writing. It's a paper, a section, a paragraph, even a sentence. You can just get consumed with one sentence or even a word. Really start with easier sections. And I'm not saying they're easy, but easier, like methods and results. You can cut and paste material from a protocol or a grant application if you want to get started, so you're not looking at a blank paper. And when you get stuck, move on to another part. So make a note or a comment or a highlight, and then just start the next paragraph. Again, this outline of topic sentences that I told you not to skip, that will be very helpful so you know what to write about next. And then again, if you get stuck, move on to tables or figures, work on references, things that might actually be less cognitively demanding, and then go back to those bigger sections. You want to define the problem and goal. So remember, always kind of think about the big picture. Why are you writing what you're writing? Imagine your reader, might be me, your peer reviewer, or even the audience you eventually want to read this, and your paper will do good. So remember that. Pre-write, so plan what you're going to write, think about it, jot some notes down and make a plan, and really commit. If you don't tell anyone about it, it doesn't exist, right? So tell someone, a co-author on your paper, your professor, your peer editor, a colleague or a friend, when you think your work will be done, and you'll have that deadline, and they'll check in on you a lot of the time. And if someone asks you to be that person, check in on them. And this is the theme throughout today, write in chunks. A big project is overwhelming. So a huge manuscript is so big, but if you think of small pieces, they're manageable. So sections like background, methods, discussion, or even paragraphs. So again, that outline of topic sentences, you can take one topic sentence and fill that in, or even when you're in that paragraph, think about the sentence. So write in chunks. And this is just a theme from the last slide, is committing to that friend. Your writing accountability group. again, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I think it is so important to set dedicated time aside with somebody, even if it's via Zoom. My writing accountability groups are all via Zoom these days with COVID. Again, this is in your book and it's really great. So I don't know how to write a scholarly paper. The best way to learn how to write is by writing or reading other scholarly papers. So again, that support group, co-authors and mentors can help. I don't have time to write. So everyone can find maybe about 15 minutes a day to write if it is your priority. And I only write well when I'm under pressure from a deadline. Actually, most people do not do their brisk work when they're stressed. So this class will have deadlines. So if that is you, you'll have deadlines. But for the most part, that's not actually true. Don't know how to get started or don't know what to do next. Remember, your co-authors, your peer editors, me can help you. This project was not interesting, so it's not publishable. If the topic was interesting enough to actually design something and make a study, it's interesting enough to write up your findings. There were flaws. Every study has flaws. No research is perfect, and that's okay. Now, if they're really bad, you'll really want to talk to someone about it, but that's okay. This study isn't going to change the world. I don't know any studies that have, or very few, I should say. I'm stuck on one section and I can't work on anything else until I finish this part. Get over that hump and move on to something else. Write yourself a note, highlight it, and go back to it later. I need to read some more articles and run some more tests before I start writing. These are, you're stalling at this point. So again, sometimes it's good to have a reality check when it comes to writing. And sometimes that reality check you need to really focus on is procrastination. We all do it. I do it all the time. It's easier with a child because you have excuses, but there are ways to get over it. And these are repeating from earlier. Tell someone about your commitment, commit to work to 15 to 20 minutes, and tell someone you did it. You can kind of give yourself a pat on the back or even give yourself a reward. Again, it's always good to remind yourself why you're writing and why you're doing what you're doing. It's so important. And procrastination, especially for me, often comes from fear. So really get to that, like, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of not being able to do it? Are you afraid of failing? You're all fantastic. You're all in this master's program or PhD program. I know imposter syndrome is real, but you're here for a reason. Also, observe your mind trying to get out of the commitment. Just kind of sit back and listen to. It's a lot of mindfulness practice. I don't know if any of you use that, but it might be something to think about. And work in chunks. Get up, walk, refresh. A real break. Don't do your usual procrastination methods. Take a break. Go make lunch. Go walk around the block. Do what you need to do. Again, these are forms of writer's block and writing avoidance, and these are all in your book. And it's really good to kind of think about these, and I'll let you read these on your own. But I think it's really a smart idea to kind of think about why you're avoiding writing and how you can kind of get back into that and really bring yourself back to reality. Here's 30 examples of or strategies of writing successful in health sciences. And this is really a good way to focus on how to write, especially if you think you're a storyteller. And it's one of my favorite approaches to writing. And that's focus on the story you're telling. So what's the mystery in the plot, the most important practice or policy implication? You really want an elevator pitch, and you want to be able to enhance your story with images or tables. So sometimes it's nice to start by making those. There's a poster, a slideshow, there are other ways to do this, and I think it's good to think about. A couple of other strategies that I think are important is be organized. So use recent articles from a target journal to create that outline, and read other people's papers. Pay attention to how they frame their arguments, present their evidence, and support their conclusions. Focus on this. The more you read, the better writer you become. It even makes writing easier. And I know we don't all have time to write, and we definitely don't have time to read more scholarly papers. But if you find a few papers that you really like their style, you understood everything they said, model your stuff after that. It's really important. Recognize waning motivation and take action to prolonged periods. Stop writing avoidance behaviors, acknowledge those fears, and remember why you're writing. So again, this is in the book, and I think it's really important. And I am going to stop sharing and just say that this class is a lot of writing. This was about, this lecture was really about some tips and tricks to help. I'm hoping that you refer back to these slides now and in the future. And again, we'll be really focused on writing, and even scientific writing and technical writing later in the semester, or 3 days from now as you get through the course materials. So really try some of these strategies. If you think they're going to work, reach out to me if you need more strategies or more help, or if you want a writing group. I really highly recommend them. Writing is hard. It is more difficult than it should be, or we wish it would be, but I think we can get through the semester together and through the rest of your career with writing. So I will see you next time, and thanks for watching.